Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's SE review show. My name's David, and I run the YouTube channel Sound Epistemology, Street Epistemology from the Puget Sound. Today I'm here with my good friends Janosch, Reid, and we have our interlocutor here with us today, Missy. And we're going to be reviewing a video I uploaded exploring Missy's hidden claim. So I wanted to do a quick shout out also to our good friend Rom. Our thoughts are with you, and we hope that your situation improves very soon. So, yeah, I've got my sparkling ice ready to jump in.
All right, cool. Yeah, thanks, David. This is going to be a fun one. This is a new experimental kind of SE conversation. Want to give background on what you were doing here?
Yeah, sure. It was an experiment that I thought of on the idea of how much do we really need to know the claim in order to have a productive SE conversation. The way I think of it really simply is, if you can imagine doing SE with the claim being hidden with somebody that might be very sensitive about putting up defenses when their beliefs are being questioned. This might be a good way to maybe go about doing that. It also could help a new SE practitioner figure out what to be focusing on. In SE, we try to focus on the sufficiency of the reasons and the reliability of the methods our conversation partner is using to arrive at a certain level of confidence that a conclusion that they have is likely true or accurate. And another way that I look at it is, if we remember our SE pyramid, where at the top we have the what, underneath that we have the why, and underneath that we have the how. If we take the top of the pyramid off, will that make the conversation less pointed?
Possibly.
So if you can imagine doing this with maybe a critic of SE or somebody that has very deeply held beliefs, this could allow them to maybe think about it in a different way, and possibly create a shift in thinking, which is part of the goal of having an SE conversation, coming to a better understanding of their epistemology, and having them reflect on that.
Cool.
So I'm really excited about doing this. I've been wanting to do one of these for a long time. It's my first time to do a live stream here, so yeah, I'm super excited, super stoked.
All right, cool. Well, let's get into the video.
That's cool.
We're skipping a bit of rapport building, getting into how you're explaining more about this.
Right.
Well, so as you know, I've been practicing what's called street epistemology. And for the benefit of whoever's listening, the way I use street epistemology is basically like a set of conversation tools that allow the both of us to explore a conclusion that you hold to be likely true or the case, and we use street epistemology to explore not necessarily whether that conclusion is true or not, but more about the way you arrived at the conclusion. So, and whether the methods that you're using to arrive at the conclusion are reliable. And so I was thinking what we could do, and I have a lot of options of where we can go, but we could examine a conclusion you have, and I could ask you questions about it, like from a neutral perspective, to try to better understand your epistemology, and hopefully in doing that, that would allow for you to better understand it also. So we could do that. I've been also working on this new experiment where I try to have a productive street epistemology conversation without knowing what the conclusion is or what the claim is. So we could do it where you'd write down a claim that you want to examine, and then I won't see it, and then I would ask you basically the same questions I would ask anyway, but that allows me to take, because I want to refrain from inserting my own biases and views about it, so that I can have a more objective understanding of it. And so I've been working with doing that a little bit to see how that goes. I also have the Street Epistemology survey with me, and that's basically a survey of 24 statements, and you basically assign your level of how much you agree with it on a spectrum. We could take one of the statements and kind of explore that. You could like look at them and decide which one you want to do.
Well, we had talked, I think, before about that initially, and you hadn't proposed them yet, but you said you had 3 of those questions in mind instead of me trying to read the whole thing.
Okay. Yeah.
But whatever, I mean,
We could
here
do
for you,
that.
my friends.
Another option we have is I give you a word for you to define, and then we could talk about your definition of it. That could be something that we could do. What
Have you done anything like that yet? The definition one?
Yeah, I actually wrote down a bunch of words that I have a hard time defining, and in my experience, other people have had a hard time defining. I call it my can of words.
Can of words.
Yeah, it's actually right here. I've got about 100 words in here written down on little pieces of Post-it notes.
Yeah.
Literally a can of words.
Literally a can of words. And I've done that a couple of times with audio, and I just have somebody virtually reach in and grab a word. There's a lot of reifications, non-substantive nouns. It's really fun. I had a clubhouse room where I just did that, and it was pretty amazing.
Okay, well,
So, what would be some examples, like things like dignity or spirituality, stuff like that?
I'll do one right now. So
Open up a can of words.
Open up a can of words. All right, so this one is true.
ooh,
True.
So they get to define it, tell us what it means to them, or just talk about it in some way.
Cool.
And that can start an hour-long conversation.
Especially that word.
Yeah.
all right. Cool.
does any of those options sound better than another one to you? Is there
Unfortunately,
something that you have in
no,
mind that
sorry.
you could explore?
Not necessarily. I think the defining something, I mean, we kind of did that with the visual art, but I'm happy to do that one again. The survey questions, we had vetted through that, so that's an option. If you just want to pick one from a hat, we can
You want
jump
me to
in
choose
there.
it for you?
Yeah, I think that's better. Yeah, because I'd like to be a little off kilter, right? Because that's the reality of who I am at this moment. So if there's
Off-kilter.
if there's any preparation, like we talked about preparation or over preparing for something like this, and I feel like I could pick a safe question,
Oh, yeah.
and if there's something that jumps out at you, that speaks to me of a synchronicity of like, I need to ask her this, and it may be what I need to be asked
Oh, okay.
beyond my my safety or my my
Missy,
knowledge of what I'd want to.
did you have something in your mind that you would have picked if you if you had to pick one of those options?
I don't quite understand the question. Can you?
The way I understand it is that David gave you a range of options where you could go, and then you said, I would like you to choose because
Yeah,
because of that
one
danger
of the
over
options.
preparing.
Sure. One of the options he was giving me for the conversation was to select one of the questions from the survey.
Mhm.
And I'd prefer to have him select a question because I felt like, well, I would pick something that'd be pretty easy for me to talk through, and I was really just looking for a challenge, and just also to just see what he would ask too, and yeah.
So did you have one of these questions on the survey in mind that you would have picked if it had to have been you?
I don't know the survey that well and at that moment I didn't know what I know a little bit just because of the videos that he and Rupert did last summer, and so I heard a little bit of the questions being asked, but I would have had to read it at that moment when we were sitting there. He would have to show me the survey for me to then look at. There wasn't anything in mind or pre-thought of. I just had kind of a general idea of what sort of questions are on there.
Sure. Okay.
Cool.
Talk about, I guess.
To kind of get you to think outside of a certain box or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's the point of all this is a learning, and so if we stay in our comfort zones, which is nice to stay in every now and again, you need to recharge and get capacity.
Yeah.
But in order for real growth and the learning, the greater learning of Big Mind, then yeah, you gotta bounce off the other atoms. You gotta let them change your trajectory, perhaps, or way of thinking.
I don't remember which ones I picked.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So, and then you had the one you want to experiment with.
Yeah, the one with
which
the
is the
claim.
blind thing.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question on that. So, now when I'm speaking about this belief that you don't know what it is,
Mm-hmm.
do I have to speak in generalities, though? Because that might be a difficult, if you're really trying to get to someone, but they have to then translate this in a way so that you're not picking up on.
Right. You would have to frame your answers in a way where you wouldn't want to reveal what the claim is. Yeah, it's harder on your end than it is on my end because I'm just asking the same questions I would ask no matter what the claim is. So it is kind of an experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would seem to be hard. You'd have to be doing two different calculations in your mind, like doing reasons versus, and also trying not to reveal.
Right.
So that would seem hard. Yeah.
Spoiler alert! It was exhausting.
Oh, really?
it focuses it forces them to focus and think about it differently too at the same time. If I'm having to explain this, but also not reveal the claim, I have to form it differently. I have to think about it differently, and I think that can be helpful.
You can't say I believe it because of miracles. You have to say I believe in it because of events that people have witnessed that I can't explain otherwise. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does help to slow down the thinking. So maybe it is kind of, an advantage.
Yeah, it's a feature, not a bug.
So, but Missy, you said it was exhausting.
Just mentally taxing to do that, as you can imagine. It definitely was beneficial, in reflection afterwards of, the effort that I went through for one, but also just in a deeper understanding and a different facet of the belief that I hadn't really articulated also. So it was really fascinating to do, but it was afterwards I was definitely drained. So it took some time to to reflect, to really see what I just went through.
So, do you think that if you had done it, if you had the same conversation without making the claim hidden, if you had just talked about the claim and revealed it, would anything have gone missing from, like, did this hidden claim add anything of value from, or can you see something that it added because you had to think of it in this way?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, afterwards in reflection, it really kind of deepened my own understanding, because I had to go through these motions of explaining in a different way, and having these different translation layers. If he already knew what my claim was, it would have been more difficult, I think, for Dave, just because it's, now we have to unpack these words of the claim before we could even get to how you arrived at it. So we're really getting to the meat of it. But yeah, it was just a lot of internal processes to then keep the conversation going, where he had enough to ask something else,
Sure, makes sense.
Yep.
That I've been playing around with.
Now I
But
could see that working for. No, well, that'd be tough. Because I feel like within a few levels, you would figure out where the conversation's going. You'd be in the ballpark. You'd be in the ballpark. You'd have an understanding if this is a confidence or low confidence.
Right.
I had no idea by the end.
Yeah. I had no clue at the end.
So you did a good job. You did a good job.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, the point of it would not for me to try to guess what it is.
Yeah, no, sure.
Yeah.
But that's going to be part of it, though, too, right? I mean, just as playful beings, there's a curiosity to try and solve that puzzle. So that's going to be taking up cycles in your, I would think, but I don't know. I don't know how you segment stuff going on.
Yeah. The last time I did it, they revealed the claim at the end, and I had no clue what it was.
Really?
I had absolutely no.
So you've seen this in practice?
I did it. I've done it once or twice. I've done it twice.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
And both times. Because I wasn't really focusing on what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I was just making sure that I was asking the questions that I would normally ask, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And it helped me take my ego out of
Or the
or
biases,
any
like you said,
attachment that I have
Mhm.
for or against.
Right.
So it kind of makes it really easy for me. But yeah,
I
it with both times that I've done it before, it sounded like it was very difficult for the other person to try to answer in a way where they wouldn't give away what the
Yeah,
what the
that's
claim
what
is.
I was curious. Like, how do I communicate without using detail?
Right.
Especially if I'm describing how I've arrived at something that is part of who I am. Right
I mean,
now.
we can try it. We can try it if you're up for that, and then see how it goes. And if it train wrecks, then we can then we can move on to a different kind of
Sure, I'm
format.
down with
I mean,
Let's do it.
unless you've already, I mean, I'll leave it up to you. Now
No,
that you know the options.
Yeah, no, I'm any of it, man. I mean, it's what you have a willing victim here, so. Not victim, participant, I should say. Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Guinea pig.
I appreciate you helping me with this.
Yeah,
This is giving me more practice and stuff.
I'll say it on camera. I think this is a really an amazing path that you found for yourself. Just from what I know, full disclosure, we have a mutual friend, Rupert, who's been on many of your things and also helping with your production and all of that. So just watching over the course of this year now, almost a year, yeah, it's really great to see you blossom and find from your backstory that this is something that really plugs into who you are, and in many levels, like, you know, not only this, the art of conversation, but also in your music and in your public speaking. And so, and then also drilling down to the truth, which is something people don't want to face. I try to help people face it from a different angle, from the inside.
Wait, so who was the interviewer? Who was the interlocutor?
Yeah.
To also have this as a vehicle to explore that more, it's really wonderful to see, and I'm happy to help, because it's such a positive movement.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that a lot. It's been really fun to kind of learn more about people and how they think. Up until recently, you know, I was doing a lot of exploring in the woods, and now I feel like I'm exploring with other people the way that their minds work, and so it's been a fun journey in that way. So yeah, I appreciate you helping me, and just want to make sure it's okay that we're recording, and that the video might go up on my YouTube channel.
Yeah,
Cool?
cool. Yeah.
Cool.
I hope it
Nice.
serves.
Awesome.
Very cool. I just exported a louder version of the video, so maybe this will help.
Got it.
Where were we? 18 something? 19?
So yeah, I appreciate you helping me, and
There we go.
just want to make sure it's okay that we're recording.
Try
Playing
that
down?
one. Yeah.
That's better.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I hope it serves.
Awesome. Well, so do you want to write a conclusion down? Do you want to write a
Wanna
claim
try
down?
that one? All right, we're going with that one.
We'll
Door
do
number
that.
2. Okay.
And then we'll see how it goes. And like I said, if it ends up not working out, which is totally possible, like I said, I've only done this a couple of times,
Okay.
then we'll bag it and do something else. So I'll have you write it down.
Okay.
And fold it up and put it in your pocket or something.
Cue Jeopardy tune.
Yeah. And the
So just a
reason
little
why,
piece of paper. Yeah, I don't need the whole sheet.
yeah,
right?
that's fine. And the reason why I'm having you write it down is so that you can't change it in the middle of our conversation.
Yeah, but doesn't that kind of happen though? I mean, the people that begin to, through that exploration, begin to lose confidence in their assertions. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll probably talk a little bit about that. And if the desire for you to change the conclusion, that's good. That means that you've given it maybe more thought than you had before, and so that's the reason why you want to change it. We'll see, but I think
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to have it.
How specific am I? It's just a general. This is a view that I hold very strongly.
Yeah, it makes the talk more meaningful if it's something that you think is true about the world. If you're fairly confident in it, and if it affects your behavior,
Yes. Okay.
so it's meaningful in that way. And then if you can phrase it in a positive manner, it makes it easier to examine. If you were to say aliens are fake rather than aliens are not real, you know what I mean? So
I see.
the
Okay.
positive side of it,
Okay.
instead of I
Not
don't
using-
believe something, or I
okay.
believe this isn't the case. That's
Not using knots.
right. Yeah, if you phrase it in
Not using knots.
X is true,
X is true.
in that
Okay.
that maybe that kind of format.
Okay.
Oh, Jeopardy music was copyright.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not Jeopardy.
But we have Star Wars scroll titles.
Oh,
You tapping on the mic, on my mic here. Just trying to figure out if I'm using the laptop mic or if my actual mic is
All right, tap on your actual mic. I can't hear that.
interesting. So it's been using the laptop mic this whole time.
You
Okay.
sound fine.
Okay. All right.
you can
Cool.
go to settings and change it, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So you've written down this conclusion that you think is true, that
Yes.
you're fairly confident in, and it affects your behavior.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about putting yourself on this scale
Okay.
from 0 to 100,
Okay.
and 0 is going to mean not confident at all. So like only questions, no confidence, and then 100 is only confidence, no questions. So on that scale, how confident are you that this conclusion is factually accurate?
100%.
100. No, there's no questions at all that it's true.
Yeah.
Okay. 100. Okay. On that same scale, how important is it for you to have an accurate map of reality? Like, how important is it for you for your beliefs to be true?
How important is it to me that this particular belief?
Just in general,
Okay.
to be believing
Okay.
true things, to have for your conclusions about the world to be accurate.
Yeah, I don't. So, all right, let me regurgitate this once more, make sure I'm understanding. So, how important is it to me that my reality is based in truth?
That'd be another way to phrase it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or that
no,
what you're concluding is based in reality.
is
Say it
based
that
in
way.
reality. Okay. Not so important to me because I feel reality is well. Yeah, it's all perception and experience, so it's subject to change at any moment.
So, are you comfortable putting?
That reminds me of this statement from the survey. But yeah, you go on this for the next like 20 minutes talking about this, so this will be great.
Yeah. The way I think of this is whenever we get to this huge wall of relative truth, it's a wall that we can't really climb over very well together, and we need to build a staircase so that both of us can climb up the side of that wall together before we can get over that wall. And that wall is going to be there until we get over that wall of say understanding each other and each other's relationship with truth. And so sometimes it takes a long time to build that staircase to get to the top of that wall to overcome it together. Is my mic working now?
Tap on it. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Great.
One question. You said your question, how important is it to you that your beliefs are true? And you said no, not this particular belief necessarily, but your beliefs in general. Why did you put it this way?
Just to have a general idea of her relationship with objective reality, objective truth, just in general, not necessarily just about this claim.
Okay.
That way we kind of have a baseline to work from.
and it not necessarily be about this specific claim.
Yeah.
Should the question be for all beliefs to like match reality? Because you say like generally, this could be a belief that's an exception to the general rule, potentially.
Right.
Yeah, I guess in my thinking, I'm kind of trying to leave open doors, and not necessarily speak in absolutes, although it might have been a good idea to go that route. Yeah, I think just kind of phrasing it, generally speaking, how important is it for you for your conclusions of reality to be accurate? Something to think about, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I think it would have been interesting to ask both questions, because if the answers were different, then that would be an interesting point. Like, oh, so in general, let's say it's very important to you, but not with this specific belief, or the other way around.
It gets interesting here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Being a number on that.
The same scale,
Yeah.
0 to 100. How confident am I that
How important is it
How
for you to
important?
be believing true things?
how important is it? Well, that's different though. That my belief in truth versus if it's if reality is true, right?
If your perception of reality is accurate.
But that's different from just in general believing in true things. Is
Okay.
it not? Or
We can talk about the difference.
yeah. Okay.
So one statement is, how important is it for you to be believing true things? And so the other statement would be, how important is it for your conclusions to line up with truth? Is that a
With
different
reality.
statement to you? For you?
Well, you threw reality in there at different points, so that threw me. So which statement do you want me to focus on?
Well, do you want to use the word true, or do you want to use reality?
It's starting to get a little,
Yeah,
difficult.
I thought, Missy, and we talked about this before. At this point, I kind of sensed that you were getting irritated here. But I think if I remember right, after we watched it together, you don't remember getting irritated here? I was just
No,
going off of
yeah.
the body language. and that's
Totally. Yeah, I
yeah.
can see why you would. I think I was just trying to get to. We seem to be talking around it,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, well, let's being cognizant of the time and the cold. Let's arrive at what we're going to talk about. So if it came off brusque,
No, it was a good
that's
thing to point out, I
personality thing
think.
too, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely body language is a great cue to, especially if you don't know who you're interviewing. There's certain signs for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I like how Nathan asked clarifying questions like, does reality mean more to you to be like the universe or perception? Like, which is more close to your understanding of it? The kind of clarifying question sometimes helps.
Are those different for you?
They are different.
Okay.
They are different.
Maybe we can talk about the differences between truth and reality.
Okay. So
What would be the main difference between those for you in your mind?
yeah, so I believe that truth informs what reality is, because as your belief in what is true maybe changes, then your reality changes. Can it inform the other way? No, I don't think it informs the other way. I think each individual has their own reality and their own trajectory that they're on, and the change in truth happens before the change in reality. Now that you can get more information, your belief system can begin to change. Things in your environment may get you to question what you believe is true. But until that moment of change, your reality is staying the same.
Now I'm wondering about this statement. you said something, Missy, about belief potentially changing reality. So I don't know if the even without action part potentially applies, but that's where I would try to clarify. And I think we do get into it.
Your reality stays the same until you believe something else.
Right, until your truth changes in some way.
Okay.
What you believe is true.
So
changes.
your reality is based on what you believe.
Sure, yeah. For individuals. And I mean, I can only speak from my perspective as well.
Okay.
But yeah, from my understanding, from my studies, from my experiences, absolutely. I believe that it is the truth, the on and off. It's true for me, it's not true for me, or the things that inform what my reality is right now.
Your perceptions cause you to hold certain beliefs that tell you what reality is.
Yes.
Can that interpretation of reality be incorrect?
It depends on who's saying that it's incorrect, right? Now,
Have we done the Tic Tac experiment yet?
No.
Okay. So, and I've eaten quite a few of these.
Okay.
Usually it's a full one.
I
But
like Tic Tacs.
so the idea with this thought experiment is, would you agree that the way we define a Tic Tac, that there's either an even or an odd amount of Tic Tacs in this box?
That's one way to measure them, for sure. Yeah.
There's either an even or an odd amount.
Yeah.
Okay. And how could we find out how many, if this has an even or an odd amount?
Well, there's a couple of different ways. You could count them,
Okay.
for sure. You could know the volume of the container that they're in and the dimensions of each and the space between, and thereby estimate if it's even or odd. Counting would be the most accurate. Yes.
Okay, counting. Okay. So if we counted these, and we counted them 1,000 times, both of us, and we were pretty sure that there were 30
Okay.
in here. So that would make it an even number of Tic Tacs, right?
Sure.
So, if somebody were to walk up to the table and say that there's an odd number in here, would they be mistaken?
Yeah.
If they said that they believed that there were an odd number in here, and it was their reality that there was an odd number in here, would they still be mistaken?
In their world, no. But in our world, since we have proof of how many are in there, it would be mistaken.
Is it possible for a conclusion in their world to be inaccurate?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to ask the they that you're talking about. Because only the individual knows if their belief has changed, right? We can assume that their belief has changed, but they have to somehow outwardly tell us that,
Yeah. If they held the belief that there was an odd number of Tic Tacs in here, would that belief be accurate?
For them, it may be. It doesn't change our reality, though. I mean, our reality is we've counted them, and we know that there's an even number.
If they counted them and they counted 30, and they said that in their reality it was odd, would they be mistaken about that?
No, I mean, if that's their belief, then, they can try to explain to us how they arrived at that conclusion.
Yes. So like when we're saying their reality, like this is a vastly different usage from like where we're coming from with the thought experiment, where we're trying to clarify these terms in the thought experiment with the Tic Tacs is trying to clarify what reality means potentially, or world. So now when we're asking questions, maybe David like say like for his perception or his interpretation or his belief, not saying his reality again, because then that's just could potentially muddy the waters and not get clarity on what we mean. Maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, I was having a hard time separating the two and getting a better understanding of the differences between reality, truth, perception, and what influences that.
Right. I was wondering, like, I thought this was an interesting way of thinking about these terms, saying truth informs our reality. If we find out that something is true or something is not true, then that informs our reality, the reality that we live in, right? That's basically what you said. So I was wondering, where does truth come from? Where is that based? What is the realm where truth can be determined? Or
yeah, and this is a very slow building of that staircase that I was talking about earlier. I am in no hurry to move on to anything else until we can get over this wall of objective, subjective truth together as a team.
Right. One last thing. It feels like this example, like someone came up and said it's an odd number, and then counts them and it's 30. I've found that usually, or oftentimes, people are willing to basically grant others that, well, that's their reality, right? That if they say it's odd, then that's true for them inside of their reality.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, of course, for ourselves, we have the experience that sometimes we're mistaken, and then we find out, oh, we were mistaken. How do we find that out? Like, if it used to be true in our reality, part of our reality, and now that's changed, how did we do that? Where did that come from? Mm-hmm. Basically, and that would be the same way. How could it? Where could it come from for them if they said it's odd, but it's 30?
Yeah, stay tuned.
I haven't seen this.
Yeah.
So.
Anything to say so far, Missy?
No, it's fascinating to watch this again. And
Cool.
like, oh yeah, yep, I'm still there. Still in
All
We can explain to them how we arrived at our conclusion. And if they still choose to believe that, no, this is an odd number, this is how I learned, what can you say to that?
Can anybody be mistaken about anything?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that if something is mistaken, there is a level of judgment being made from someone else on the outside, right? And then there is the acceptance of the individual. Yes, you're right. The way I was going about things is wrong.
Let me go back. But I heard something about judgment. And whenever I hear that, it reminds me of this decision-making principle between deciding if a claim is true or not. Some people might use this principle to try to decide if it's true or not. Like all sincere persons' belief of equal claims to respect. That might be one strategy for attempting to, resolve conflict between truth claims.
Right.
So that's what I'm hearing potentially.
Yeah, it's a very compassionate approach and mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So then they have to thereby change who they are. That's the full form of being mistaken, I believe. So
The full form of being mistaken could lead, potentially to change people who they are fundamentally, like their core beliefs. Which is why, many people criticize SE as like people who are going out there and potentially changing the core being of people, like their core character, their core sense of identity. And some people see that as like really wrong.
Well, I believe that's fear-based. This, of course, is my belief, but I do believe that that's fear-based when people rail against efforts to help people arrive at something that that they're accepting for themselves to change their own reality. And so it can be scary to see people transform when you feel so safe in your own beliefs and don't want that house to be shaken or burnt down.
Yeah.
Yep.
the give and take. There's an acknowledgement that I'm wrong in the way I'm thinking, and then the acceptance to, or an agreement that maybe this is just my belief, and then I think the feeling of being mistaken or not only lives with the one that's observing the behavior, if that makes sense. It could go the other way as well. Like, let's say you were to tell me you're mistaken, and I say, no, I'm not. And then you realize, oh, wait a minute. She's right. She isn't mistaken, right?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
I guess I'm trying to figure out.
So
another way that I like to explore this is if I were to take your glasses, and if I were to say, it's my belief that these glasses belong to me. Would that be okay with you?
Sure, but you would not be able to see. I mean, if that's how you want to go through the rest of your life, not being able to see a bloody thing, then please have them. I'll get another pair.
So
the world will be an impressionist painting for me until I get a new pair.
You wouldn't have any issue with that?
No, I mean, but I'm an oddball in that way. I don't believe in possessions.
Okay.
There's sentimentality for sure, and there's necessity in them, but I don't. If you need my glasses, you have them. Now, if there's some aggression there, I might have a problem with it. But if I can help, you can have it.
If you were riding your bike to the store, and you were riding in the bike lane, and I decided I wanted to pass somebody on the right, and I got into the bike lane and I hit you, and you're hurt really bad. And if I said it was my belief that it wasn't me that hit you, would I be, and we had video, surveillance, evidence, there's scratches all over the front of my car that match your bike.
Yeah.
You saw the license plate. You
Sure.
know, we have this
Irrefutable. Yeah.
huge amount of evidence that points towards me being the one that basically hit you on your bike. And I said that it was my reality that it wasn't me that hit you.
Right.
Would you have any issue with that?
I would feel bad for you because you're having a delusional episode.
Okay, why would I be delusional?
Because there is evidence, and there is the bike lane, so there are rules of the road.
We have evidence of the amount of Tic Tacs in here.
Sure.
So is it evidence?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same argument. I mean, I didn't use delusion before because what you're describing to me is much more an extreme case than someone saying,
Okay.
they could have just been taught wrong. we don't know what their background is, and they could just really believe that because that's what they learned. But having delusion, though, that's a different animal. It's still true, though, that that's their reality. But what we're facing is someone that there's something else going on in their mind that is clouding judgment.
Why would they be the one with the delusion?
What? Because there's injury having been made to people and things. There's
of the evidence,
a
right?
social contract that's been broken.
Okay. Does the amount of delusion depend on the amount of evidence?
Does the amount of delusion depend on the amount of evidence?
Because we have evidence that there's an even amount of Tic Tacs in this box.
Yeah, I believe it does because, like I say, I mean, it could just be that this person who thinks that even numbers are odd was just taught incorrectly. You know, maybe they lived on the street, maybe they're completely sane, but because of how they learn to communicate numbers, because that is itself just a construct for us to explain the world around us, but they learned a different way to express that. It's still meaningful, it's still the same amount of Tic Tacs, but what they're calling it, what we call it, is something else.
Yeah. That's why I was saying at the beginning, the way we define odd and even, would they be mistaken if they said that there was an odd amount?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, you know. I mean, that's what you discern through having the conversation of how did you arrive at that as your answer in an objective way, not with biases, like you said, you know. And so, so allowing them to explain, well, you know, this is just how I learned how to do it. So they could be completely sane, with no delusions, you know, not trying to be just contrary. This is really what they've learned, and so that's how their belief is formed.
When I hear stuff like this, like you know, social construct relating to potentially labeling someone as crazy, this reminds me of the postmodernist Michel Foucault. But that's just something I think of when I'm hearing stuff like this. Like he appeals to, he warns about society having certain ideas that could like oppress certain people because they have certain ideas of what is crazy or not crazy, and that maybe our social construction of what even and odd means, is that a form of oppression that some people that we could put onto people that could potentially make them seem like crazy? I could see that happening potentially, but I also think, depending on how we define even and odd, I don't think it goes into that type of category. But I could be wrong. But that's just something I thought of.
It kind of reminds me too of something is true if everyone agrees.
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitions of words are part of that, right? We all agree on the definitions of certain words, and if someone says 30 is an odd number, then that either means they are using the word odd wrong, or the word 30, or the word is. But you could just rephrase the question and say, let's say that they said, I'm aware of what an odd and what an even number is. I know that an even number can be divided by 2 with no remainder. And we all agree what 2 means and what divide means, etc. And they still insist that 30 is an odd number. I think that way you could at least, like, you could get at the core of the question, which is you weren't asking the question, what if could they be mistaken on the definition of the word odd? You were asking, could they be mistaken about the fact whether or not 30 really is an odd number, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
versus someone that obviously knows how to drive, they have a license,
Yeah.
they know what a bike lane is, and then they intentionally or distractedly run into a cyclist and then claim, I didn't do it, it wasn't me, even though this is my car and I'm the one standing here speaking to the police right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
That's someone that's lost, connection a bit, or they're trying to get out of it and just are in denial of the situation. Oh my God,
Connection with what?
almost killed somebody.
What?
They've lost connection a bit. Connection with what would be my question, because
The social contract, I think.
the social contract. Okay.
All the driving, this is a bike lane. I'm standing right here. I just got out of the car that just hit this person. So there's the evidence that Dave laid out for me that was around. And so for them to nope, none of this happened. It wasn't me. That's a loss of connection. You could say reality. You could use that word, but
Because of my distractedness or whatever the reason was.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting to think about, because it seems like we could just appeal to, well, it's my reality that this isn't the case. And why would that not be a sufficient argument out of anything? You know what I mean? Like, if we were supposed to meet somewhere at 9 o'clock and I showed up at 9:30 and you were wondering why I was late, and I said, well, it's my reality that it's only 9 right now. Like, why wouldn't that be okay?
Well, if it's okay for you to do that, then we probably wouldn't do business again. Because my reality is to show up on time.
Because it matters that we agree that there is.
Yeah, that's the social contract,
We
right?
have we have agreement about what odd and even means, and what 9 o'clock means, and what personal injury means.
Yep.
So where does that agreement come from if everybody has their own reality?
Well, there I think are certain things in this agreement that we have in moving through our physical lives and in a modern life. There are certain things that we agree on that we accept together as part of reality.
Okay.
So there's a framework that we're all agreeing to. And so when I speak about reality, it is the individual.
I don't know if that's what you're saying, but that potentially is close to what it is, maybe.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier.
Perspective from their experience. That's what I consider reality. So there is this, like I said, there is this, the maze that we all live in as we're learning. But then the internal dialogue and the way we express and the way that we view, that's reality for an individual.
Okay, can somebody's perception and experience present a reality to them that is inaccurate?
Well, again, we're coming to...
I would say inaccurate to the external world.
To the rest of us, yeah.
Can someone's internal map of reality be mistaken about the actual territory of reality? Maybe.
Well, Missy, would you say that there is such a thing?
So for someone to have an internal map that differs from the external agreed map of everyone else, is that what you mean?
It's not agreed. It's just is the territory. We all have, well, this is the the contention. There's like the base assumption that there is a territory out there, regardless of whatever we believe, regardless of what anyone believes. Something's out there, and we all have our own individual map, but we can also compare our maps together to get a better collective map of the actual territory out there.
Yeah, that's, to me, that's moving from the internal realm to the physical realm, because there is this, when your eyes are open and light is shining, you're seeing a physical manifestation of matter. And so there's what we call it, what we perceive it together as a collective is one thing. What goes on internally is another thing. So
could everyone be mistaken?
yeah, absolutely. And the same is true that everyone is correct. And it's really in who's perceiving it.
Right. So there is one. There's the individual reality, the internal perception, everything that our model of the world, maybe. There's some sort of social contract, some agreement that the majority of society agree on. And then there's this third thing, the physical universe. Is that?
No, I was only speaking of two, the internal and the external.
Okay. So those are the same. The agreement of people, everyone agrees on one thing, and that is the external thing, and then there's the internal thing. But you also said everyone could be mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, do you have the answer, the ultimate answers? I don't. I mean, we're all just kind of guessing, really. So
Right? No.
we could ultimately all be wrong. This could all just, we could be in an ant farm for all we know.
Okay.
I will keep going here.
Where is the inaccuracy?
Right.
That's someone else observing. Then no. I mean, my reality is my reality. Your reality is your reality. If you feel that my reality is false, that's your perception of reality. It doesn't affect me because my reality is mine, And I can choose to question my reality. I can choose to change it, but it's still mine. As yours is yours. And so any sort of, is it inaccurate, is it false, that's a judgment from outside of my reality.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I understand. Can anybody be wrong about anything?
Yeah, they can, but it takes an acceptance, an acknowledgement of being wrong, and then something perhaps in the behavior changing. Maybe not. Maybe it is just acknowledgement.
I have to acknowledge that I'm wrong in order to be wrong?
Right.
So I'm not wrong until I acknowledge it.
Yeah, now that's a slippery slope, because if there are things that you're hanging on to that are destructive in some way, like to yourself, it's bringing suffering, then that's when delusion and denial start to set in, perhaps resentments begin to set in, because you're wanting someone else's reality to conform perhaps to your reality, and maybe there are things you're not accepting. And so then that's a choice of like, I know this isn't real for someone else, but it's real for me in my reality.
Okay. One more question about this, and then we'll move on. Is that cool?
Yeah, I feel like I'm carrying on nonsense though, but okay.
if I hit you with the car and you were on your bike and I was driving around in the bike lane with my car, and I'd never acknowledged that it was wrong for me to drive in the bike lane, it sounds like you're saying that I would not be wrong until I acknowledged that.
Well, in that situation, there's the social contract of vehicular homicide. You know? And so you'll be behind bars, perhaps, or at least highly fined. And your belief may or may not change, but the agreed collective reality is going to do something about what you've just done.
The collective reality.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the maze that we live in, that we all agree, especially in driving and you know, getting from point A to point B, until there are transporters which can maneuver us through this space without becoming in contact with each other, or we do have to live in cubicles underground, then yeah, there has to be a collective reality.
Okay.
For sure.
Cubicles underground? What's that about?
Oh, no more cars, no more bikes. We just
Oh.
have to walk from point A to point B.
So society has to agree on stuff for somebody to be mistaken about something. Would that
Yeah,
be a good way
and
to-
certain in those cases where it's, you know, affecting other people. I mean, like you went towards law, right? That's another construct. That's an agreement that we have collectively that, yeah, we don't go break into people's houses. We don't steal babies. We don't do any of that kind of stuff. Now, somebody may want to do that, and people do that, you know, but they, in their world, that piece of the contract isn't as important to them, or they don't consider it real.
This is actually very deep philosophical stuff. It's related to the realism versus anti-realism. She's talking about certain moral facts or moral things. Are they real, or are they just mirror social constructs or a social contract? Or is it actually objectively the case that if you murder someone, that is objectively wrong, regardless of whatever anybody thinks? We could all disagree, but it's actually more than wrong. This is deep philosophy, moral philosophy, actually.
Yeah, it's also mixing together a little bit moral truths or moral statements and factual statements, like the number of Tic Tacs in the box. I would argue is usually not a moral statement, unless maybe you talk about whether or not you should, if it's an odd number, you should get the last one or the other person, and then maybe it becomes moral. But yeah.
Yeah, that's in the course we're writing so far, we have a bunch of different kinds of claims categories, and one is like descriptive versus normative claims, and within descriptive claims there are like empirical claims, like even or not, or aesthetic or ethical / moral claims. Like, is it actually wrong, for someone to run over someone in the bike lane, or is that merely a social construct? But with something like even or not, I would be more inclined to think, yeah, that is, regardless of what anybody thinks, a thing that is true. But we can talk about that, yeah. Anyway.
Are we all living on the same planet?
No.
Wait, what?
Do that. You know, but they, in their world, that piece of the contract isn't as important to them, or they don't consider it real.
Are we all living on the same planet?
No. Well, it depends on what you mean by that.
That might be something that we can talk about next time, huh?
Yeah.
So, all right, so back to this one.
Yep.
How much does this conclusion on that scale from 0 to 100, how much does that affect your behavior?
The thing I wrote down?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all of it. Really, it's who I am, really.
It affects your behavior like 100% or 90, or where would you put yourself?
Yeah, that's tough because, you know, there are masks that we wear, right? And so I think in certain situations you're only showing or allowing who you are to affect part of your decisions because of whatever the contract may be.
Mm-hmm.
But I've reached an age now where that's less and less, and more and more just me. And so I think,
It affects your behavior greatly. You'd say.
a lot more now. Yeah, I temper it a lot less, for sure.
So tomorrow, if you found out that this conclusion was not true, your behavior would change?
No, I don't think so. I think it's really ingrained in who I am. So, I mean, it would have to be pretty considerable.
Like if you were convinced
If I was
tomorrow
convinced
that you were mistaken about this
completely,
claim.
wow, okay, that would be mind-blowing for sure. Yeah.
Because otherwise it wouldn't affect your behavior, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, if I find out tomorrow, because this is such a high confidence, this is such a part of who I am, it would take time to process, for sure.
Sure.
It would take time to come to some sort of conclusion. I believe reality is shaken. Whether it changes or not would take more exploration to really, I think, understand and integrate this new information.
I guess what I'm trying to find out is, if you found out it wasn't true and your behavior was the same, then it doesn't really have a big effect on you. Like, I would...
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, when I'm thinking about what I wrote down, I think I would happily continue on, you know, even though it's proven to not be real, this particular thing.
Yeah.
Because it's just a much... it's a joyful way of living, I think.
Got it. Even if it's not true, it still brings you joy to live as though it is true.
Yeah, I think so. And that's, for me, and maybe this is a belief also, but for me, that's the point of all of this, is to aim towards joy, always.
Got it. And holding this belief improves that experience.
Yeah, for me, for my reality,
Okay.
for the world I live on.
On the planet you live on,
planet I live
this this helps.
Get those rocket boosters ready, buddy.
All right.
All right.
So,
Am I making sense at all? I feel like I'm just like speaking spaghetti.
do you feel like you have a better understanding about what your process was, or maybe putting these things into a way for you to express it? We kind of talked about art before, where art helps us express things that we're not really able to express with words. But sometimes I find that having these discussions at least helps me to put my thought process into words. And I guess the question is, to answer your question with a question, is it doing that for you?
Yeah, I absolutely agree that, especially in the way that I do processing, it's a lot of silence. It's a lot of shorthand, you know, that synapses has in making conclusions. So bringing it through this filter and putting it into words that are understandable, maybe relatable, yeah, it does get me to look at things from a different angle, because I do have to slow down and be careful, I think. And I think those moments when I feel like I'm speaking through a mouthful of spaghetti are those moments where I haven't really articulated it in this way before. It's just kind of just a feeling, a piece of growth that's happened internally that I just haven't had the wherewithal to express. It just is.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes we don't stop and think about why we think a certain way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or stop and speak about why we think a certain way. Yeah.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question, but I think we're on the right track.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to do a quick check-in on time. I think Missy's got a hard out at 2 Pacific. Here in about 5 minutes. I was wondering if you wanted to maybe split this up into 2, like part 2 at another time, or, I mean, I'd be open to that. Do you want to talk about how to move forward? I think we still have quite a bit to get through. What are your thoughts?
Another 30 minutes, maybe. So, but there's like another hour, or like 45 minutes left in the video. Let's see, it's 53 to probably, what is it, an hour and 15 or something.
I mean, I can hang out. I can hang out after Missy has to leave too. You know, I'm open to doing that. I just wanted to be respectful of the time parameters that I.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a hard stop at 2. I can hang for a little bit longer. I just have someone coming, and I still need to help with some things to prep for that. So it's not a hard stop, but maybe a half hour at the most. I could hang about.
Okay. Want to go for another half hour? See how far we go?
Sure.
All right.
Without revealing what the claim is, this is probably going to be the hardest question to answer as far as that goes.
Can I look at my claim one more time?
Yeah.
Let me just.
Yeah.
Now that we've gone through a bit, let me refresh. I mean, I know it, but you know.
Yeah.
Let's just be clear. Yes. Yeah, I absolutely still 100% believe that.
Okay, cool. What is your main reason? What's the reason that supports the 100% confidence the most? Where if that reason wasn't available, or if you found that reason was not sufficient, would drop your confidence the most? What would be the
Well, I think
main
we
reason?
agreed that it wouldn't, because it is such an ingrained part, and it feels good and it feels right for me.
Yeah.
So even if it was proven incorrect, this particular belief, I still, there'd be some more contemplation for sure. There'd be some adoption there, but I think at its core it wouldn't change, and my confidence in it wouldn't change.
What's the main reason that brings you to that confidence level?
In the ways that I've moved through suffering in my life, this particular belief has proven time and again to be a healing and supportive way to move through these things. It's the best way that I can define my experience also in this life. It's the lens in which I view the world, my reality. And yeah, it's a comfort that I've shared with other people, and they also have found some meaning in it in their own way, not exactly as I define or put feeling into the words, I guess. But
lots there that I'm picking up on. So you're asking the main reason for thinking that's true, but I'm hearing an appeal to a bunch of benefits the belief gives you for believing it, which is like the reason is the benefits potentially, which is, and where with SE, at least for me, I categorize some of these things in terms of psychological and social motivations for belief. And I don't know if this is something that's weird to do with like you here, but what I'm hearing is like the belief allows you to feel some type of obtain active control in kinds of situations or in life in general, or obtain passive control, like feel comforted. That's what this is about. And then have a way to feel meaningful with a sense of purpose. A bunch of these are what I'm hearing so far. And then I think you go into a bit more here in a second. So hang on.
In some way, it's been impactful.
Okay. So X is true, and X, the main reason why X is true is because it's been a way for you to move through your life and get clarity as far as
clarity, healing, and understanding
clarity,
of
healing,
suffering and impermanence. And
so the reason itself is a way to understand things.
Yeah, I think so. It's a way for me to understand my reality, I guess.
Impermanence, and that's where I hear this potentially. I don't know if that's what you mean by impermanence. And like there's psychological literature around the denial of death, which I think of a lot. It has a lot of motivations for people believing in certain things. So when I hear impermanence, that's what comes to mind for me. What are you thinking about all this so far, Missy?
Well, I don't know if impermanence is it's not a denial of death. If anything, it's an acceptance that, life has a, if life exists, then death also has to exist, so impermanence is just the change, it's just life living itself.
Yeah, so I guess permanence would be the denial of death, like the
Right.
afterlife belief.
Yeah.
So,
Like,
makes sense.
I mean, when you're, not to start bringing up, religious things, but when I hear the description of a heaven, that to me is a denial of death. That's an extension of your life, just in a different place. When all things have to fade in order for new things to come about. But that's, again, my belief.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yes, right? And continue to grow towards something positive and try to leave this world better off.
Why is that a good reason to accept something to be true?
Well, I think compassion is always the better choice. I don't see any reason why someone would choose to live in a discompassionate way.
Can somebody be compassionate and arrive at a false conclusion?
Sure. Yeah, there's always well-meaning heroes,
So if that's the case, then why is that a good reason? Why would that be a good reason to hold that much confidence if it can lead to false conclusions?
Well, it's unfortunate if it does, but I think if anyone's intent is to do something in a compassionate way, I mean that's a good intention, right? It may go awry. It may not be the right time for it.
I think we're separating, or the idea here is to separate intention, like intending to do something right, separating that from having confidence that it's accurate.
One more time.
Like the reason, like separating the idea of intention versus confidence that something's factually accurate.
Well, I think your confidence is what drives your intention, though, right? If you're confident that your action is a compassionate one and is needed at this moment, and then you act on it with that intention.
Confidence that it's true is what
Confidence
I'm asking
that,
about.
what the action you're getting ready to take is required and will be welcomed. Also, because even a compassionate act may not be welcomed at that moment. You know?
Yeah, this may be the opposite of this principle. Like you're saying, potentially, well, some people say the first priority for what to believe should be that it causes no harm, but maybe this is what I'm hearing is like maybe the first priority for what to believe should be that it is compassionate. That might be a principle, potentially. What do you think, Missy?
Yeah, I think it's where your priorities lie. And if your priority is, or your intention is to be compassionate, then it, by definition, that is your intention is not to cause any harm.
Yeah. And with this, I guess we're trying to also distinguish between truth and benefit, or truth and no harm. Can something be true but not harmful, or true and harmful? Does the more harm a belief, if believed causes harm, make it less true, or how do these things relate?
Well, I think the belief there's, in order to reach harm or no harm, there is that in between of an action being taken on a belief. And so having the intention to do something, so that's the to do, there's an action that's being taken, and the result of that action brings harm or no harm. So the belief itself is not harming or unharming. It's just a belief, but then taking an action on that belief.
Yeah, I guess one of our core assumptions is that beliefs inform actions, and the reasons for why people believe, why people do things is or because of their beliefs, and usually because of they think their beliefs are true. So that's why we're a little bit, that's why we're focusing on beliefs and the truth of beliefs, because they inform people's actions. These things are related in our project here. I think we're saying pretty similar things, though. Anyway.
Right.
I mean, like I may feel, okay, I want to give a hot cup of coffee to this homeless guy sitting out my local store or whatever, but he may not want that. He might take that as an affront, even though it's a very compassionate act, and the intent behind it is to ease their suffering as well as my own, and seeing this, this person in the state.
Yeah.
But they may not take it as that. They may take it as an insult.
Yeah.
They may, have just had a cup of coffee. They don't want any more,
Right. I guess where I'm trying to draw the separation is being confident that this is the right thing to do versus confidence that it's true. And with the claim that you've got, I'm interested in understanding the main reason why you think it's true, and that is because it's offered you healing.
Solace and direction
And if somebody can use that reason to arrive at false conclusions, why is that a good reason to be 100% confident that the claim is true?
well, I can't control if someone else, they arrived at something else by using the same reasoning. I mean, it comes to also, the definition of words too, right? Like when they read what I've written, they may have a different experience in reading that than I do, because of the weight that put on certain things, or your experience with those particular words through your life, and how it has a meaning or a feeling. The people that you've met or have been touched by some intention that's fueled by that belief. So
I think I'm understanding. Is there a way to test this conclusion to see if it's true or not true?
is there a way to test this conclusion? Well, it's true for me, so you want to be able to test it.
Yeah, this is what we call the appeal to relativism reason when we hear things like my truth or true for me. And I guess this goes back to like David saying in the beginning that we're trying to come from a neutral standpoint, but I don't know if that's true. Like, this is something when we hear, we want to push back on, we want to challenge people on, to not be relativists, and to at least be, for empirical reality, think of truth in terms of objective truth. External world is there. We can update our own personal maps, and we can all help each other improve our personal maps of the territory. This is a kind of missionary project we have for being, so at least for me. What do y'all think of this?
It kind of reminds me of if there's no objective truth, then how do we solve any problems? How do we solve any disputes?
Right. I think that is indeed maybe an epistemology or an epistemological point of view at the core of street epistemology, because most of us probably agree that there is some sort of objective reality that we perceive differently, but there is something that's out there. And so if someone criticizes that and says we are, I don't know, in a way proselytizing for that sort of epistemology, maybe there is something to it. Maybe that's a valid criticism. Maybe we are all adherents of Popper and his falsificationism.
Yeah, potentially we're evangelists for fallibilism or something.
Yeah.
Or like a Bayesian epistemology.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm fine with taking that criticism on. I'd be open. Like, I still want to be open to being wrong about that, for valuing objective truth in that way, or thinking of truth in that way. But I probably want to, as challenge people about that if they are potentially relativists or thinking in terms of subjective truth.
Well, however, if you're saying I would still want to be open to being proven false, but you would probably just accept the kind of tests of that epistemology based on the epistemology, right? You would want to say, is there a way to test this epistemology?
It would
if
have
there
to
is,
go.
we can falsify it, and that is the epistemology itself.
it would have to go to a more meta-pragmatic philosophical level potentially. Like, is it really pragmatic to think of ourselves in terms of being in an objective reality, and to think in terms of claims in this way? I think it is the most, also, this is the most pragmatic way to navigate reality, and that pragmatism leads to human flourishing and compassion. This is where the most effective way to be compassionate lives. To be, there's this quote from Boghossian from the original book, like this quote: by using a more reliable form of reasoning, people are more capable to bring about conditions that enable them to flourish, not only for themselves individually, but collectively. So I think this is where, at least I'm coming from.
I think it helps too to explore this with real life examples, like with the driving in the bike lane. If we all have our own reality, how can we figure out if what I'm doing is causing harm? Like how does this actually play out in real life? Having a view that we're not sharing a reality where what you do affects my world.
Yeah, your consciousness, your capacity to suffer.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you could be a solipsist and say, well, you don't even exist. I'm not causing harm. You're just a projection and in my imagination. You're part of my dream or whatever. But yeah, like there is no way to test that. Solipsism is not non-falsifiable.
Right.
So I guess at this point you could argue, well, what would be the implications if you were wrong about that? You would be causing harm and denying it. However, if you were right, or if you were not a solipsist and you were incorrect, if the solipsist standpoint was actually true, then there wouldn't really be any harm done, because you would be playing it safe, basically.
Yeah. Well, anything to say about all this, Missy?
Nope, didn't go.
All right. We'll keep going. About got another 15 minutes. Here we go.
To see if it's true for you.
If we wanted to find out that this conclusion is a fact about our world,
Okay.
the world that we share.
All right. So we are
Is there a
together
way
going
to
to investigate.
Yeah, is there a way to test it?
Certain facets of it, yes. Certain facets of it, yes, you could scientifically, and I believe there is science behind it.
Okay. So there is a way to test. There's a way to test.
Portion of it. The other portion of it, again, comes from how you define certain words. So if I were to define a particular word in there, and you define it differently, it's not going to land the same. So there might be a different word that you substitute, and then you get the intent behind my belief.
Let's say we agree on the definition of that word.
Okay, yep.
Is there...
Well, if we agree on the definition of that word, then there isn't any proving I need to do.
Okay. Is there a failure component to the test? Like, do you have a way to tell that it failed the test?
Do I have a way to...
We could test to see if gravity works here in this park.
Yeah, okay.
And one test that we could do is I could drop my pen. That'd be the test.
Okay.
If gravity was not working, we would be able to tell that the test, that it was that it failed the test because this would start floating instead of falling. So that's one way to tell if gravity was not working here.
Yep.
I don't know if gravity is not working, but our model of the phenomenon of pens falling down, our model for that, aka gravity, is mistaken in some way. That's the one we can tell if our model is mistaken.
Yeah. Is there a way to tell that this conclusion is not true?
Yeah, that's really difficult because I have such high confidence in it.
I have confidence in gravity working here in this park, but I have a way to tell if it wasn't working.
Right. I guess, yeah, perhaps. Yeah, okay. If this belief were to be shaken in some way, right, and changed, or redefined, it's like some new information has come to light, perhaps, then it could be proven, false at that point. But is there a way to test it in the moment? This particular belief, it would be it'd be difficult to prove. It would.
Sounds like it'd be difficult to disprove.
It'd be difficult to disprove. Yes, it's very easy to prove it, I believe, but difficult to disprove.
Do you think
but see, I'm speaking from 100% confidence.
Right.
If I were to speak to someone who's jaded and destitute, they may not believe this. They may throw a pile of dog shit at me, but like, how dare you say that? Because I am sitting from my experience, seated here.
This might be one potential disadvantage of doing without knowing the claim, because we usually want to try to push for very specific disconfirmation criteria, and that might give away potentially the claim if we get something like that.
Yeah, and defining the words within the claim too can be lost here, which I think is important.
Yeah.
Will the claim be revealed at the end of the video?
Yes,
it will be.
Okay.
We can probably just anyway. Yeah.
Cool.
And somebody could conclude based on their experience in something that could lead them to a false conclusion, you said, right?
Yeah, because of how they may define certain words in that statement from their experience.
Okay.
Words have power,
Is it important for you to be able to disprove something that you think is true?
Yeah, sure. You want to, when you're especially making some sort of decision, especially if it's like how you're going to live your life, I absolutely believe that it's worthy to do yourself that favor and look at it from as many different angles and try to chase those rabbits where they go. At a certain point, though, you have to say, okay, this is enough proof for me. Then this is all in, this is my belief. Otherwise, you're spending your life just trying to disprove yourself, and that's exhausting. You should just accept, this is my belief.
Okay. It sounds like what you're saying, it's important for you to be able to tell if you were wrong.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and this particular belief that I wrote down, or statement that I wrote down, is something that I have done a lot of study on, and turning it into, is this right for me? Is this real for me? Does this feel good? for me? And the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I live this life.
Cool.
In this way.
Can you think of any criteria that would... I know that you said that you were 100% confident that this claim is true. Is there anything that you could learn that would raise your confidence at all?
The only thing that I think would raise so over 100%.
Yeah, if there was somehow like...
I think only when I leave this physical form will I know absolutely for sure.
Okay, so you mean dying?
Yeah.
So dying and something happening would raise your confidence that this is true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that the only way to raise your confidence about this?
Well, if my confidence is shaken in it,
Mm-hmm.
so let's say I'm wavering, the thing that brings me back to 100%, how about that?
Okay, yeah.
So my confidence is wavering, and the thing that brings me back to 100% is my practice, is re-engaging with art, so that's being at the leading edge of creation.
Art?
Yep.
Okay.
And then my practice as far as zazen, so being in meditation,
Mm-hmm.
and my practice in witchcraft as well brings me in tune with the natural world and the forces that are around me as creation's being made. So making those connections helps to bring me back to 100% confidence.
Okay. If somehow your confidence was shaken in this, one way to get you back to 100% confidence that it's true is your art, meditation practice, and then feeling a connection with the natural world.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, practice in general. The practice that I have, whatever modality you want to use, the discipline of that practice, and in coming back to that place that I know is safe, and I could begin to feel that belief and be able to question it without judgment. Is this real? And to be able to discern and come back to what I've asserted myself for my life, and where does the joy? Am I aiming towards joy still? With this high confidence. If I'm not, then I need to investigate further. But for this particular belief, when I take those times to go into those particular modalities that have guided me so well so far, and I have no reason to question their ability to bring my confidence back to 100%.
Is joy required for your confidence to be high that this is true?
Joy is the, let's say you're sitting in a room and you hear a car alarm going off. What happens? You turn towards that sound.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I feel like joy is. Like when I'm feeling lost or isolated, I know what that feeling feels like. And so when I hear it, I want to move towards it.
Okay. It's something that gets your attention.
It definitely gets my attention.
Okay.
There's no denying it.
Okay.
There's no denying that feeling. And just as there's no way of denying when you feel angry, when you feel sad, that's just... So I have attuned my feelings to be able to know when a certain one's coming, whether I need to direct my energy towards it. And when I'm feeling lost, or I'm feeling my confidence is shaken, than knowing that I can, as the crows around us are telling me to do my work. I hear the birds. Anyway, that's another conversation. They're saying, hey, just do the work, girl. Anyway, it's
The crows are communicating
That's
with you?
confidence building for me. Yeah,
Okay.
but yeah. So that's so I just aim back toward realign myself with that feeling of joy. What's joyful for me, is what I aim towards. I want to bring everyone with me towards that, and so I speak my truth. And I appreciate this forum to do that.
Yeah, for sure. You talked about having your confidence shaken. Can you think of anything that would cause your confidence to be shaken about this?
Sure. I mean, we're still living in this modern world, and even though there are social contracts, there are certain things that happen within these social contracts that are not from a place of compassion. They're ego-filled, greedy, whatever, And so when those things happen, when I see others blatantly causing the suffering of others, my confidence gets shaken. Because who am I, this one person, to try and change the hearts and minds of people? I'm going to give it my all to try and do that, but there are definitely moments when you see these people, like where we're living now, seeing these people living in the cold and in destitution, and then juxtaposition of that is these beautiful neighborhoods. It's difficult for me to reconcile sometimes, but I know that through my practice of just that practice of aiming towards, of seeing that and still choosing joy, still wishing them well, all of them across the spectrum, those that are cruel and those that are the most kind, that I know I'm moving us all forward in some way, If I'm not able to do something in action, I can at least do it in spirit, in practice.
Yeah, it seems like if you looked hard enough, you'd find a lot of examples.
What?
The half hour is
It is.
over, so I thought maybe this could be a good place to stop or pause.
It's just about done. We're probably like within 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've got time. Whatever you want to do, Missy. You can.
Yeah, we can run to the
or
end.
you can go
No,
back
that's fine.
It's just about, it's just
I just
about
checked in with my guests, so we're okay.
there. Okay, great. Almost there. We've gone this far.
done. Yeah.
So
Thanks, Janosch.
of things people are doing that would lower your confidence in this.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself having that confidence shaken often about this particular belief being true? 'Cause you said that
No,
would
yeah.
be criteria that would cause your confidence to go down, right?
Yeah. Sure, there's moments. Not recently. I mean, the past 3 years, I think I've leveled up in certain aspects of my practice, as far as releasing my attachment with an outcome, and knowing that it's the right answer for certain behaviors to be changed, but my attachment to it is causing suffering. I just have to allow these things for people to arrive at things themselves, and so that's helped a lot, because there's that moment of like, why am I caring so much? Why am I holding such a high ideal and regard for who we are? Because my statement is a we statement. that it does shake your confidence, because you just feel like, well, I'm just this one person, and this is my perception and my belief too that I'm trying to hold a we to. So those are those moments where the confidence gets shaken, like, well, this is just some personal philosophy, whatever, and
Sounds like it might be overwhelming sometimes, huh?
It used to be, but also when you lean towards for me, the concept of big mind, that we're all actually just one collective of a learning consciousness, and that there is a fathomlessness to compassion, then no, I've learned to have my own capacity for sure, and I have to recognize when my capacity is depleted.
You have to take care of yourself too.
Right.
Yeah.
But in the practice, you also learn how to just be a conduit, that you're just there, your capacity is not affected, except in the way that you are receiving the compassion that you're pulling and then sending out. So you're using the source, which is endless, to send that compassion out, to send that healing out, to try and help people with understanding each other in a more empathetic way. And so then what it used to be was I would use my own capacity for that, to help healing people and stuff, and I would be just wrecked from it. And so it's just learning to work with it, really, and knowing that it's endless, and that's difficult for some people. I think in my claim, there's a certain word I use that certain people would define it within. It has boundaries, that it is can be parsed and defined and all of that. And my definition of it, it's not. It's all in everything, and it's endless. And it doesn't need to be parsed, and it shouldn't be.
That's a good place to end.
Yeah. My goodness.
Do you have any questions?
Exhausted hearing it again.
Do you want to see what my thing is?
Yeah, do you want to reveal it? It's up to you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the world should know. That's Kleenex.
Oh, well,
It's
that's
not
it.
really either.
Yeah, it's gone.
Okay. We are all beings of light, moving toward and powered by love.
We are all beings of light and
Moving
moving toward
and
and powered by love.
Did you get that,
Yep.
Janosch?
Janosch knew it the whole time, I'm
He knew it
guessing.
the whole time.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Let me show you the piece of paper. Yeah, no,
That would be a whole nother level at some
Yeah.
point, that you write down what you think the person's going for and just
Yeah.
see if you've arrived.
Yeah. I don't
yeah.
think it matters. I don't think it, like I said before, the idea is not to be able to guess the claim. The idea is for them to be able to explore the way that they are supporting their confidence in the claim. I've done these where I haven't even gotten the claim at the end. It's irrelevant.
I was wondering, like, when you said, Missy, one way that you could be proven wrong would be if you died. I started to wonder, like, okay, what's this about? It has to be some sort of statement. You already said that we all have to die. If there is life, then there has to be death. So, and it seemed like you disagreed with religious beliefs about there being some sort of heaven or afterlife. So I was wondering, is it about that fact that we all die at some point, but then at least at the end, towards the end, when you said there's a word in your claim, and some people would try to confine it, define it, and it shouldn't be. At least I thought that's got to be love. I think that's love that
Yeah,
you're talking
yep.
about. So at least I got
Exactly
one
right.
word right.
Yay!
Totally.
If I remember right, that's criteria that would raise her confidence. That would raise your confidence, Missy. If I remember right, that dying and something happening would be criteria that would raise your confidence that this is true. Like that'd be the only
Depends on
thing.
what it is that happens.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Instead of it being a criteria that would lower.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
Yeah, that's one of the contentions that I have with or not contentions. It's really difficult finding words. When I think about religions, philosophies, certain ways of defining love, it seems like there is this parsing that happens when it really shouldn't have any sort of gates. It just is, and we're here for the moment to express as much of it as we can, and then we fade to allow others to then express what it means. And so when I think about the stories told of, you can't have ultimate love because you don't believe the same thing I believe in, or you can't be in the club of love because you don't believe, or we're not going to give you membership for whatever reasons. And so I have a hard time with that. But that's my practice. That's my letting go of the attachment, and if that's your joy, if that's what you want to do, if love for you is a club, then so be it.
What would have to happen after you after you die that would boost your confidence, and what would have to happen that would lower your confidence?
Well, yeah, to lower the confidence, I guess it would be discovering that we're living in a simulation. Raising confidence, yeah, it would just be, becoming a being of light fully, relieving myself of this physical form.
Could we relieve ourselves of our physical form and not be beings of light?
Well, yeah, I mean, then again, it's a word you use, right? I say light, it could be something else, undefinable.
Maybe something similar to a soul.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever resonates with an individual, really.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a difference between potentially knowing the claim and not knowing the claim. Like I would want to really define beings of light from the get-go, and moving toward, empowered by. Like these are a lot of things to get clear.
That was the toughest part of doing this, as we discussed at the beginning, was how do I talk about something without talking about it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So cool, David. Yeah, I look forward to seeing more experiments like this. I may try this one time at my table. We'll see if that happens potentially tomorrow.
I've got some a list of recommendations for people that want to try this that I've been collecting. A lot of these recommendations that I have now, I didn't have at the time that we recorded this, but this conversation helped form some of those recommendations. I've got a list of those. If anybody's interested, just let me know. I also have a list of advantages of what this kind of approach could give somebody too. So if anybody wants to explore more of that with me, I've got some of those. Also, my intention isn't to replace classic SE with this. I personally would rather do a regular SE conversation when I know the claim. But can you imagine doing this with like a hardcore fundamentalist that can
be really defensive whenever we get into those things. And this is a way to, because they'll know that I don't know the claim. And so they can't really hold me in a position to where I'm trying to get them to doubt necessarily about their specific deeply held belief. It's exploring not whether the belief is true, but how sufficient those reasons are that they're using to think that it's true. So again, this is just another tool to add to the toolbox of a SE practitioner, depending on what the situation is.
And on top of that, I believe it's when like a fundamentalist talks to you and knows this is being recorded, this might go up on YouTube, people might watch this.
Mm-hmm.
If nobody knows what the claim is, you can't lose face. You can't look foolish when you take some time to think about a question, when nobody thinks, well, he should know the answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
lowers their defensive.
Yeah.
It's disarming.
Yeah.
And they can use this conversation, the questions that I'm asking, on other beliefs that they have on their own time.
Yeah. Cool.
Very cool. All right. Well, thanks for sticking all the way into it, Missy. And
Happy to.
was really great. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
Hope to see you in future videos with David. That was really great.
Well, I got the red puzzle piece. Apparently,
got
I
the one,
need
so you
two
gotta
more.
get two
Yeah.
more.
You can thank Reid for that one.
Yeah. All right.
How's your
Awesome.
supplies going?
I'm getting some more soon. I'm already working on that. So been looking for another shipment. Another thing too is I've been exploring doing this with a hidden claim and also hiding the main reason, so that we can talk about the sufficiency of the reason without knowing what the reason is. So we focus on.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
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 You keep doing this. When you're done, we only need one word to have the whole conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just sit down at the picnic table and just look at each other and be enlightened.
Yeah.
we talked about that a bit last night, that it would just be this kind of staring at each other, and then eventually like, yep, I think that sums it up.
Yeah. Thanks you guys for doing this with me. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here, Missy, and this was fun.
Yeah, no problem.
Bye.
We'll be back next week. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
See ya.